Support for this podcast comes from the law firm of Davis Malm. Whether you're a developer, property owner, manager, or commercial tenant, their real estate attorneys know the lay of the land, not just the law. Learn more at davismalm.com.
WBUR Podcasts, Boston.
I'm Daryl C. Murphy, and you're listening to The Common. Today, we have the last episode of our three-part series that looks at the past, present, and future of psychedelics in Massachusetts as a potential ballot question could lead to the decriminalization of some of the hallucinogens. While the ballot measure pertains to some natural psychedelic substances, our discussion about the future will focus on a synthetic psychedelic, MDMA. We'll be talking to Rick Doblin, who's based in Boston and is the founder and president of the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, where he has led efforts to get prescription use of MDMA-assisted therapy for PTSD approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Rick, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, Daryl, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, me too. For folks who don't know, what exactly is MDMA?
People may have heard about it as ecstasy or Molly, but it was also a therapy drug before it became a party drug under the name Adam.
Mm-hmm.
So MDMA was invented in 1912 by the German pharmaceutical company Merck, but they had no idea what it was. They were not even looking for it. A good way to understand what MDMA is that it has the stimulant properties of methamphetamine, but it doesn't make you jittery. You can take it and sit still and be quiet, and it sort of opens your heart emotionally. And it has some of the psychedelic properties as mescaline, but it doesn't dissolve your ego. There's no visuals in that same way. So it's kind of a really unique combination of methamphetamine and mescaline. And that's actually one of the reasons why it can be useful in psychotherapy.
Yeah, tell us more about that.
One of the things that MDMA does is it reduces the part of the brain that processes fear. It also makes you connected to yourself in this loving way and builds empathy with other people. People may have heard of hormone oxytocin, which is nursing mothers, the hormone of love and connection. It releases that. And it makes it so that people can talk about things that are difficult, normally emotionally challenging. And yet under the influence of MDMA, they're able to really go deeper into their thoughts and memories, and particularly helpful for people that have traumas in post-traumatic stress disorder. So that's what we chose to take through the FDA, MDMA-assisted therapy for PTSD.
So when we talk about MDMA-assisted therapy, what kind of therapy are we talking about?
Psychedelic means mind manifesting. Things come up, and we believe there's a certain order, a healing order. So we support whatever is emerging, and we encourage people to express it, either in their body shaking or crying or just thinking carefully or feelings. So the model that we tested in what's called phase 3, the final stage of FDA research to try to prove safety and efficacy, trying to use double-blind, placebo-controlled randomized studies. Our model is 42 hours of therapy. It's 3 MDMA sessions, each 8-hour long, once a month, and then 12 90-minute non-drug psychotherapy sessions, 3 before the first MDMA session for preparation to educate the potential patient about what MDMA does and to talk about their traumas, talk about their issues, and to build what's called the therapeutic alliance between the therapist and the patient. And then we have 3 90-minute integration sessions after each 8-hour MDMA session to try to bring the lessons and the experiences and the emotions and the insights that happen during the MDMA session to work on them without the drug to try to bring back lessons. So what our goal is to get to the root of the problem, the traumas that really influence people and to help them reprocess, to experience the emotions.
All right, Rick, I want to take a break here, but when we get back, I want to talk more about testing and getting that FDA approval. So we'll be right back.
Politics has never been stranger or more online, which is why the politics team at Wired is making a new show, Wired Politics Lab. It's all about how to navigate the endless stream of news and information and what to look out for. Each week on the show, we'll dig into far-right platforms, AI chatbots, influencer campaigns, and so much more. Wired Politics Lab launches Thursday, April 11th. Follow the show wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back with Rick Doblin, founder and president of MAPS. We're talking about MDMA therapy for post-traumatic stress disorder and your efforts to get it approved by the Food and Drug Administration, which has until August 11th to decide. Recently, the Washington Post reported an independent review had revealed that the MDMA-assisted therapy trials were not blinded to compare the drug's effects, which undermines its validity. And when we say the trials weren't blinded, that basically means people who received a placebo knew they got a placebo. If the FDA doesn't approve this therapy, what's next for MAPS?
If the FDA doesn't approve, then we have to understand why. And then we would continue to try to do new studies to address whatever their concerns were. However, I would say that the Washington Post article missed a very important point, that it wasn't a, quote, successful double-blind study, which means that when you give somebody a psychedelic, generally they know that you gave it to them. And it's not really possible to do a fully double-blind study with psychedelics or with any drug that has such powerful effects. And so we knew that, and we engaged in an 8-month process with the FDA called Special Protocol Assessment. This is back in 2017, before we started the phase 3 studies. And we agreed with FDA that the design would be therapy without MDMA, therapy with inactive placebo, versus therapy with full dose MDMA. So the Washington Post article completely missed the point that we had already agreed with FDA, and they had chosen the design that we were supposed to use. If the FDA does, for whatever reason, say that they don't approve it, we have to figure out why, and we're going to keep researching until it gets approved.
Now, I want to talk about the actual MDMA itself here. What are the limitations of the medical use of MDMA?
The first, and I would say probably the most important, is that it increases blood pressure. So if somebody has uncontrolled hypertension, we will not enroll them in the study. We don't administer it to people that are on other psychiatric medications. The other psychiatric medications tend to blunt the effect of MDMA. We don't work with people that are psychotic. We don't work with people at the moment that have bipolar disorder. I think the main concern, though, is psychological. We do enroll people that have previously attempted suicide. We work with the hardest cases. Our first study was with severe PTSD. Our second phase 3 study was moderate to severe PTSD. So I think the most important part is to have a safe, supportive environment with knowledgeable therapists, ideally therapists who have had their own experience with MDMA in a training session so that they know what it does and how it works in people so that it can fully support them.
Now, I want to ask you the flip side of the FDA question. If the FDA approves MDMA for mental health treatment, what is the plan for a state like Massachusetts to implement this therapy?
First off, let's assume by August 11th that the FDA says yes to the prescription use of MDMA-assisted therapy for PTSD. Then it gets handed over to the Drug Enforcement Administration, and they have 90 days where it has to be rescheduled. Mm-hmm. Right now it's in, quote, Schedule 1, which means no medical use. Then once it's rescheduled within these 90 days, then the states have to reschedule as well. And it will be pretty automatic in Massachusetts. And so if FDA does say yes, we think by the beginning of 2025, it should be available by prescription in a limited number of settings where we have trained therapists and opened up clinics.
The healthcare system is experiencing some workforce shortages. How would you meet the demand for this treatment?
The sad part is there's no way we can meet the demand. There are 13 million PTSD patients in America, according to the Veterans Administration. Most are women survivors of sexual abuse. We do want to see MDMA both accepted by the FDA as a prescription medicine covered by insurance, but also legalized like cannabis is in Massachusetts in somewhat similar ways. And then we want to train people in psychedelic peer support because unfortunately, many of the people that are the most traumatized also have the least resources and don't have insurance to pay for their treatment. Mm-hmm. So we need this parallel path. One is drug development. The other is drug policy reform.
Got it. You know, there's a lot of talk about psychedelics and, psychedelic-assisted therapy. What do you want people to know about the use of psychedelics?
The most important thing is that these are just tools, that they're not inherently helpful or harmful. It's how they're used. And so I want people to understand that when we talk about MDMA-assisted therapy, it is about the therapy more than the medicine. MDMA is a profound, powerful, gentle, very deep experience that can come from it. And it can be remarkably helpful. So if people really want to learn more about psychedelics, you can go to the maps.org website, and there's information about the upcoming conference, and we'd like to invite you all to consider attending.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Daryl.
That's founder and president of the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, or MAPS, Rick Doblin. And that concludes our 3-part series looking at the past, present, and future of psychedelics in Massachusetts. If you have any thoughts or experiences that you would like to share, please hit us up on Instagram at WBUR-The-Common. You can also send us an email at thecommon@wbur.org. And now it is that time for me to let you know that The Common is produced by Caitlin Harrop and Franny Monahan with help from CCU. And CC, I just want to say, working with you during your fellowship has been an absolute pleasure. You are sharp and talented, and I am confident you will do great things moving forward. Thank you so much for sharing your gifts with us. Also, big shout to WBUR podcast producers Dean Russell and Grace Tatter for your help this week. And The Common is mixed by Emily Jankowski, Matt Reed, and Paul Vaitkus. And it's edited by Samatha Joshi and Ben Brock Johnson. And our theme music is Me by Hisu. And from the newsroom of WBUR, I'm your host, Daryl C. Murphy. I'll talk to you soon.